So today we're going to do a different kind of video, something I'm kind of wanting to get into with the channel. This house over here on the left, a lady by the name of Roberta Brandenburg lived there. She is the only person, the only widow that I know that ever lost two husbands on the same tractor. One in the early 80s and one in the mid 90s. The first one was Harold Brandenburg. The second one was Morris Warwick. That brick house right there, a gentleman was killed there over a child dispute. The guy that lived there, his daughter had got a divorce from a gentleman, and they I don't know, something pissed somebody off or whatever. So the gentleman that lives there pulled the gun, shot the guy. Somehow or another it was self-defense. This house right down here, there's a cabin. Alright, it's hard to see this time of year. That was a repossession. This is the most hallowed, cursed 2 or 3 mile stretch of road that I personally know of. Now, I grew up in this area, and this whole little stretch of road, there was always some kind of tragedy going on. This next piece of land over here on the right, if you look, you'll see a barn to your right coming up right here. That double wide house there, in behind the barn, there's been 2 sets of couples lived there. Both of those couples have went through a divorce. Now, in front of the barn, in behind all these trees here, there used to sit a single wide trailer. The gentleman that originally bought this farm from the next story, him and his wife ended up getting divorced. So there's been 3 divorces in that 150 foot or so. Alright, this next little piece of property over here on the right, starting my knowledge of the property, some Smiths owned it. Well, Mr. Smith passed away, and a gentleman by the name of Lewis and his wife Ferry bought it. Well, Lewis died at this piece of property here, and then after he died, some of the heirs took it over, and the house ended up burning. And so, but before the house burnt, the people that bought it, Lewis and his wife Ferry, Lewis died in the house. So as we go on out the road here, this, I don't know what it is about this stretch of road, but it is very, 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 very hallowed ground. Now, up here, literally 500, 800 foot up the road, there's a shop sitting on the side of where a single wide trailer used to be. And right there where that shop is sitting right there was a single wide trailer there. Ina Rose died Halloween night, approximately about 1986-ish, right in that general area. And so, I mean, it just goes on and on and on. So now, believe it or not, we actually get to drive about a half a mile before our next location. And again, another death. By the way, back there in that white house, there's been 2 divorces from it. I don't know what it is about this area or whatever. This field right here on the left, in behind these trees here, Jesse Bogey had a hay fork on and turned the tractor over. Well, he survived that rollover. It was a Ford 3,000. And so I think it was 1983. Yeah, it was 1983 or 1984, whatever year the census was. But that's important for the next part of this story. The gentleman that survived the tractor rollover in the very late 70s, about 78, 79, it was right around in there, because the tractor he flipped was a 78. It wasn't a 3,000, it's 3,600. It was the last year, so it was about a 78, 79. So anyway, right around in there, he survived that tractor rollover. But the same gentleman did not survive the rollover right here. He was on a Farmall 140 and loaded out the road here. He was hooked to a rail wagon, and on a Farmall 140 you can't lock both back wheels together. So when they start scooting, one turns one way, one turns the other. So your only option is to push the clutch in and ride it out, or bust your butt. But if you look right down behind these trees here, this used to be a gravel road, and those gravels started rolling underneath his tires. Well, so the people in the barns over in behind those trees there is where the barn sat, but he had loaded about a quarter mile down the road, and again, this used to be a gravel road. He got to scooting on those gravels, and where it really drops down right there, the census lady showed up. She was out doing the census count. She's the one that found him. So he escaped a tractor rollover about 5 years ago, or 5 years before that, on the other side of the road. But this one here got him. Coincidentally, where we made that turn out here, less than a half a mile is where Roberta lost her second husband. Completely flat ground. That gentleman's name was Morris Warwick. And in behind Roberta's house there, where I started the story, on flat ground, is where she lost the first husband, Harold Brandenburg. So she lost both of her husbands in a 2-mile stretch of road. So believe it or not, we actually get to drive probably a mile, even though we're on a different road right now, but we're coming back out where we started. But this next one, the lady, her name was Miss Brackett. Well, Miss Brackett was the nicest lady you could ever imagine anybody being. Always made cookies and stuff. Wonderful, wonderful lady. So anyway, I don't know. It was probably about 1984, 1985. God, people didn't live long in the 80s around here, did they? Especially if you did any kind of farming. But her husband was a farmer, and he decided that farming was too dangerous. Too many people was dying and stuff. So he got a job and saved some money up. He bought a bulldozer. Well, he bought an old 60s model bulldozer, which, keep in mind, in the early 80s was not that old. But that's important because a lot of them in the 80s or the early 60s did not have roll bars on them, didn't have the roll cage. So he owned it approximately 1 month. He was on his second job when he was late coming home. And so come to find out, this drive coming up here on the left bless her heart, the police showed up to tell her that her husband had flipped a bulldozer and did not make it. Now, this is a whole little triangle. It's like a death triangle of the Bermuda Triangle in Estill County, Kentucky. And we're not done yet. No. We got less than a quarter mile left, and we still have 2 more stories. It's just unbelievable the stuff that's happened in this little bitty area here. But up here on the left, there's a little cabin a few hundred feet from here. This cabin has burnt 3 times since like 1986, 87. The gentleman that lives there, he is either the luckiest when it comes to an insurance company, or he is the most unlucky person that I know. But he used to be one of the people that you went to in this county before you could go and buy certain things on the shelf. But anyway, I don't know. But it's burnt right over there 3 times, 2 or 3 times, 3 that I think. And then right up here on the left, down this drive here, this is where the single wide trailer set that I was telling you about, where the first divorce come from. And I figured this was a good way to end it, because if you look at that tractor there, that is the tractor, people, that 2 husbands died on. That is Roberta's old tractor. The roll bars was put on it by Morris himself, and he died on flat ground. He was cutting hay, and when you cut hay, you always want to pull away from the creek bank and then have your blade out toward the creek bank and cut into it. And he did that. He didn't do anything wrong, but it had washed out under the creek bank, which is why you cut into it, but it washed out way more than anybody could ever think. But that tractor there has killed 2 men roughly about 10 years apart. Very, very hallowed ground around here. But I hope you all enjoyed this story, and we're going to try to do more stuff like this.